The movie begins with Reese sitting in a room full of telephones, and among all those phones, there's a black one with a paper taped to it that has some numbers written down. The moment she dials the number, she hears a phone ringing, and when she answers, water starts pouring out of the receiver. A strange voice congratulates her and tells her she must solve the riddle before it's too late. The water keeps rising higher and higher until she's about to drown, but then she spots a bathroom drain on the ceiling and realizes she needs to pull the flush. She quickly tries to climb by hanging onto the phones one by one, but she slips and falls back down. Suddenly, she notices the paper with the numbers again, grabs it fast, and works out the riddle to locate the hidden handle for the flush. After a frantic struggle, she finally finds it, pulls it, and saves herself, only to realize it was all just a twisted game that left us as exhausted as her. She then heads back home and sits down at her computer. That night, her father, Grace, arrives, and they have dinner together. Suddenly, the power cuts out. Reese turns on her phone flashlight, but then she notices the cell network is also down. When Grace looks out the window, he sees the entire neighborhood plunged into darkness, and just as the bulb bursts, he realizes this isn't a normal outage. He tells Reese that it looks like this blackout won't end soon, so they might as well spend the time talking and looking at old photos. Moments later, a loud noise draws Reese upstairs, where she enters the storage room belonging to her father and grandfather, Frank. There, she finds a book about electromagnetic energy, learning how radios were first invented back in the 1950s. She keeps digging through the attic and comes across an old wired device, fiddles with it until it comes to life, and manages to connect with her grandfather, Frank. He lives alone in a remote area away from the city, and through the radio, he learns that the blackout has spread across most of the city. The moment he hears Reese's voice, he's overjoyed, asking about Grace, and finding out he's asleep. Frank then insists they need to come live with him, since the entire western region has been affected, and he's deeply worried because there's no clear reason behind this massive outage. Frank explains to Reese how to charge the generator so they can stay in touch, but it will only work if they are within 5 miles of him. He also points her to a location on the map that will help guide them on their way. After a while, she signs off and tells him she'll have Grace talk to him in the morning. On the other side, Frank goes into his own storage shed to make sure he has secured everything he'll need. The next morning, Reese tells her father about the conversation with her grandfather, but Grace refuses, saying he won't move to a place where only 2 people live. He reminds her that Frank had always warned about a blackout like this, claiming it could be the beginning of the end. Meanwhile, Frank is out hunting deer when Reese calls him again on the radio and lets him speak directly with Grace. As soon as Frank hears his son's voice, he asks that Reese not listen in, so Grace sends her out of the room. Frank then reveals that much of the western United States power grid has been destroyed and warns that they need to leave immediately before the city collapses into chaos, since criminals and looters will surely take advantage of the blackout. He warns that soon everyone will flee toward the hills and urges Grace to leave before the rush. He tells him that the storage shed has extra gas cans to help them reach him because fuel will soon run out across the city. At last, Grace senses the danger and decides to listen. He quickly gathers whatever supplies he can before leaving with Reese. But as soon as they head out, they find the city in complete turmoil. People rioting, stealing, and panicking everywhere. At the market, they witness crowds looting food and water, so they decide to keep moving toward the road. There, they discover countless families also fleeing, forming a massive line of cars stretching endlessly ahead of them. Their progress comes to a halt when they reach the scene of a traffic accident that blocks the entire road. Grace and Reese get out to see what's happening, but suddenly, another car speeds in from the distance, slamming into the overturned vehicle and clearing the way. In that split second, the path is open again, and they rush back to their car, continuing their journey as night falls around them. When Reese wakes up, she realizes her father has taken the wrong road. Just as she's checking the map, Grace crashes into the car in front of them, and both of them black out from the accident. While unconscious, Reese dreams of her mother being wheeled into an operating room in critical condition. She sees a strange man staring at her in an unsettling way, and soon after learns that her mother didn't survive. By the next morning, Grace regains consciousness and desperately tries to wake Reese, who seems lost in another world. Finally, she comes to, and Grace, nearly terrified out of his mind, tells her that they've veered off course and the car is now useless. He insists they'll have to continue on foot. Once she fully grasps the situation, Reese starts searching for the radio and tries calling her grandfather, but Grace reminds her that he won't be able to hear them unless they're within 4 or 5 miles. Left with no choice, they turn to the map again and find they're close to the waterfalls. As they leave the wrecked car, Reese notices her father bleeding and discovers a wound along his side, but he brushes it off and reassures her he's fine. They continue walking along the river, but Grace weakens quickly, stopping often to rest. He tells Reese she must stay strong and keep pushing forward, never give up. She grows anxious about him and insists on checking the wound, only to be shocked by how bad it looks. Still, he reassures her and forces himself back up so they can keep moving. But soon, his strength runs out. He tells her to help him before collapsing unconscious to the ground. Reese panics, running frantically through the woods and shouting for anyone to help. At last, she stumbles across a large house deep in the forest. Hearing her cries, Uncle Glenn rushes out immediately. Without hesitation, he drives her back to where Grace is lying, loads him into the car, and brings him home to treat his injuries. After providing the first aid, Glenn asks where they're headed, and Reese explains their journey. He tells her that ever since the blackout, everyone's been trying to escape the city, and adds with visible worry that his wife, Marlene, is trapped in another town, and he has no idea how to reach her. After a while, Reese wanders off for a walk, but the moment she sees that strange man again, fear overwhelms her and she runs back to her father. Every time this mysterious figure appears, disaster follows, and sure enough, when she returns, she finds Grace dead. Glenn is with her and helps bury Grace beside the house. Meanwhile, Frank is still searching the roads for them, determined to find his family. At the same time, Glenn decides he will take Reese to her grandfather, so they set out on their journey, each of them unknowingly moving closer together. On his way, Frank comes across the wreck on the road. And when he investigates further, he discovers Grace's abandoned car deep in the woods, stained clothes covered in blood, and realizes they must be in serious danger. He searches everywhere until he finally spots Glenn's house in the distance. But when he enters, it's empty. He feels he's close, but then stumbles upon Grace's grave, leaving him devastated. Meanwhile, Glenn and Reese continue on their path, but when they come across a car stopped on the roadside, Glenn grows cautious and hides Reese in the trunk for safety, warning her that bandits roam the area. As he approaches, the same mysterious stranger appears, claiming he's lost and needs directions. Glenn starts to explain the way, but the man suddenly turns on him and kills him without hesitation. Reese, hidden and horrified, witnesses everything. The stranger then takes Glenn's car and drives it to a large garage filled with abandoned vehicles, looking to siphon fuel. As he moves between the cars, he hears a noise behind him. Spinning around, he comes face to face with another figure. Reese seizes the chance and escapes, running as fast as she can. On the other side, the stranger finishes off the thug who had ambushed and killed Glenn, but soon after, he senses Reese nearby. He captures her and stuffs her into a sack, carrying her with him. Desperate, Reese struggles to free herself, but when she finally gets out, she finds herself confronted by a strange woman in a wheelchair. The woman greets her with a chilling smile, saying, "Welcome, sweetheart." Reese asks who she is, but the woman replies that Reese is the one who should answer that question, because she's the outsider here, intruding on her land. With that, the woman wheels herself away, leaving Reese shaken. Meanwhile, Frank continues his desperate search, chasing every lead, but each time he gets close, fate blocks his way. At last, he finds Glenn's lifeless body lying on the road, another crushing blow in his grim journey. Frank now knows for sure that the danger surrounding Reese is only getting worse. On the other side, the strange old woman invites Reese to dinner and introduces her to her precious family, her son Bill, the one who first found Reese, and her grandson Quinn, who always sits quietly lost in his own world. When the woman asks about the man who had been with her in the car, Reese firmly says, "He wasn't my father. I didn't even know him. He was a thief and got exactly what he deserved." She explains that she isn't running from anyone. It's just bad luck chasing her. Every time she turns a corner, disaster follows. As soon as the old woman hears about the blackout, she scoffs at city life, saying, "That's what comes from living in the cities. Power outage or not, it makes no difference to us. We've always lived the old way. Lamps, candles, fresh milk, and that's that." She adds that they hunt from the forest, eat what they catch, and couldn't care less about phones or televisions. That night, when everyone is asleep, Reese tries to escape, but the old woman senses it in an instant and screams for Bill, who chases her down. Within moments, Reese finds herself caught, trapped like a mouse in a snare. The next morning, while in the forest, a bear catches her scent and charges, ready to tear her apart. Bill steps in and kills the bear, revealing their twisted plan all along. Reese was meant to be bait for wild animals. He drags her back to the house, and the following day, the old woman comes to speak with her again. This time, she offers Reese a deal. Stay with them in the forest permanently and marry Quinn, so everything stays in the family. Reese, horrified, tells her death would be easier than living like this. The old woman grows furious and orders Bill to lock her back in the room. days pass while Reese remains imprisoned. She tries again and again to escape, but this time the door is firmly secured, the internet is dead, and even the radio won't connect. Left with nothing, she clutches photos of her parents, sobbing in the dark. One night, Quinn spots her as she makes another desperate attempt to slip away. She pleads with him, begging him to let her out, and even urges him to run away with her from this miserable life. And indeed, Quinn agrees. He sneaks off, grabs the keys, and helps Reese escape. Together, they head toward the waterfalls, hoping to reach the transmitter. By that time, Bill discovers their escape and immediately chases them through the forest. Hunger begins to wear on Reese, but Quinn, ever the gentleman, picks some cherries for her. As they walk, they start opening up to each other, sharing stories about their lives. Just as things seem calmer, dear viewer, I was about to hand them a tree and a couple of lemons. Bill suddenly appears right above them. They sprint to hide, but he spots them, and the chase continues. At one point, Quinn nearly falls into the river, but Reese saves him at the last second. They try crossing on a fallen tree trunk, but Bill closes in again. Just as he aims at them, they leap into the water. Bill refuses to let go and follows their trail, but thick fog envelops the river, making it impossible to see. Reese and Quinn hide beneath the surface as Bill passes by, unaware. The moment he's gone, they climb out, but Bill catches sight of them again, seizing Quinn and beating him down. His weapon falls right in front of Reese. And here, my friend, came the test of true courage. Quinn had risked everything for her, and now it was her chance to fight for him. She moves in to save him, but the surprise is that the shot that takes Bill down doesn't come from her. It's from none other than Grandpa Frank, who finally arrives just in time to end it. Reese runs into his arms, safe at last, and they all return to his home with Quinn by their side. Years later, Reese and Quinn are still living peacefully with Frank. The outside world remains broken without electricity, but inside their little haven, life is calm and secure. One day, Quinn finds Reese's old laptop, and suddenly messages start pinging. The power has finally returned. But by then, Reese no longer cared. She had already found safety, love, and a simple, steady life. And so, the film ends with that message. Don't forget to drop a like, share your thoughts in a comment, and I'll see you in the next movie.